The importance of business analytics lies in the fact that it helps in gathering a large volume of data at a much faster rate and present it in a visually captivating way. This way, companies can achieve specified goals with better choices on matters like how and where to take the business. Understanding the importance of this, we have come up with this session on business analytics for beginners. Now, before we go ahead with the session, I'd like to inform you guys that we have launched a completely free platform called Great Learning Academy, where you have access to free courses such as AI, cloud, and digital marketing. You can check out the details in the description below. Now, let's have a quick glance at the agenda. We start off with an introduction to business analytics, then we'll learn about hypothesis testing. After that, we will learn about PCA and factor analysis. And finally, we will learn about Poisson distribution.
The standard workflow that we're thinking about is first you collecting the data and specifying the model, and you estimate the model. This is what we are calling as inferential analytics. And then once you have the model in place, you can use this for making predictions, right? So make predictions on unknown data. That's our predictive part. And based on the predictions, we're going to prescribe some actions, some actionable insights. So we're going to prescribe certain actions. So in this case, our basic, in the case study that we are looking at, our prescriptive actions where if our prediction is the market is going to go up, then we want to buy, otherwise we want to sell. So when do you want to buy? When do you want to sell? So that's our prescriptive part. And the other part of the prescriptive part also is to evaluate the performance of our prescriptions. And again, in this case study, we are saying this is in terms of returns. So we emphasized this point last time too, that whenever we are making building models like this, what the client finally wants to see when you evaluate the performance is the performance of our prescriptions. He doesn't want to see stuff like R-squared accuracy, sensitivity, etc., because it doesn't mean much to him from his bottom line perspective. So this is the workflow that we had kind of formulated, and we started in our case study, the algorithmic case study, right from step one. So nobody literally gave the data, so we downloaded the data from Yahoo Finance. This is not meant as a hard sell for finance per se, but one of the key attractions of finance, particularly from an empirical, etc., is the fact that we work with secondary data, and the secondary data is publicly available, right? So no matter how many stock prices you want, information on the company's earnings, sales, etc., all of them is publicly available. So we don't see this collection data itself as a bottleneck, but the fact that data is available means that there are a lot of projects that we can do without relying on a proprietary database. Then the second step, we specify the model using regression. So we said PT is alpha plus beta, PT minus 1 plus an error where the dependent and the independent variables were the prices, but the only difference was the independent variable was a lagged price. Right? So our idea was that today's price can be explained by some of you would have realized that all that we are doing is what is typically referred to as an AR1 model. But I'm very, very conscious about not using that terminology because I don't want you to get lost in the jargon. It's essentially what we call as an autoregressive one model. Why? Because this is regressed on its own variable, but lagged by one lag. So that's why this is called as an AR1. But we can completely do this case study without getting into any of those jargons. And the reason why we specify the model, the rationale for the specification was we wanted to know if there is momentum or contrarian in the data. This in turn would inform our prescriptions, right? This in turn would inform our prescriptions or trading decisions. Right? So our hypothesis is essentially that beta equal to 0. That means that if beta equal to 0, there is no relation. If beta is positive, then we have momentum. And then if beta is negative, we have contrarian. Right? So that essentially was our model specification step. We articulated what a model is. We try to rationalize why we want to think of model that particular way. And once you think of model specification in this format, it should immediately be obvious to you, why am I stopping only with one lag? Why don't I do 2 lags? Why don't I do 3 lags, a week lag? All that are bells and whistles, right? Those can be added later on a piecemeal basis. But what is more important for us is to get the basic model correct. The third step also we did, which is estimate the model, right? So when we estimated the model, we got PT is some 0 plus 0.99 pt minus 1 plus pt minus 1, and the R squared for this regression was about 99.9%. This is where we left last time, and we kind of asked ourselves, that sounds too good to be true. What is it that we are missing? Which meant that if we were kind of going through the workflow, we did this, and then when we look at the results, it is obvious to us that something has gone wrong in the model specification stage, right? So that's the feedback loop. So even before we get into here, we are going to reiterate, go back to this step and see what exactly went wrong in our model specification step. So what went wrong is the fact that we are primarily working with time series data, right? Remember, we talked about what a cross-sectional data is, what a time series data is, and what a panel data is, right? So again, because this concept is so fundamental, so critical to all analytics, I want to explain it within a non-financial framework. I don't want this message to be anchored only to finance. I'm going to take a very, very basic data set, the one that we already seen, which is sales versus advertisement. I'm interested in understanding the relationship between sales and advertisement. Let's ask a very, very, very basic question, right? It's absolutely basic. Why am I interested in knowing the relationship between sales and advertisement? What is the point of trying to do this analysis? What is the even more fundamental reason? The basic point remains that the objective of any business is to increase sales. But I can't increase sales directly, right? The only way I increase sales directly is if I keep buying my own products. That doesn't make any sense. So I'm trying to see which way can I increase the sales. The way I try to increase the sales is one of the channels is through advertisement. That is why I'm interested in this relationship to start with, right? So when we do this, there are many, many ways in which you can run this model. The first way in which you can run this model is to say sales for, let's say, different products. Okay, so the background here is we have data set that looks like this. I is the products that we have. So this could be, for example, hair oil, shampoo, soap, whatever. Imagine all FMCG kind of products, right? The other data frame I could have is the time series, which is all of these observations for different periods in time, for 2017, 16, 15, so on and so forth. Right? So those are the two cuts I have. The first cut is the cross-sectional cut. This is at a given point in time. This is a time series cut for a given product, right? So when I write this equation like this, what kind of a data am I working with? Well, I basically is a superscript. The time series, first. So when you see an equation like this, this was not meant as a power here, but as an index for different products, right? So effectively what this equation really is that I write sales of hair oil is alpha plus beta times advertisement for hair oil plus an error associated with that. And then I have sales of shampoo is alpha plus beta times advertisement of shampoo plus an error associated with that, so on and so forth. What is not there in this equation? What is not there in any of these variables? What is missing is the time subscript. I don't index this with time. Therefore, what this equation does is for a given time. For a given time, you are writing an equation between sales and advertisement. The other way in which you can write this equation is sales at time t is alpha plus beta advertisement at time t plus epsilon at time t. What data set am I working with now? Time series. What is missing? I don't have any product. So really what this is doing is this is doing it for a given product. Always try to expand this and see how would this equation actually look like when you write it for data. This probably all of this is for, let's say, a product like hair oil. So what you're doing there is for a given product, you are looking at the relationship across different points in time. And what is the third way of writing this? Sales for product I at time t is alpha plus beta times advertisement. So here I'm doing this regression for different products at different points in time. So this was our panel data. Remember the question that I asked you, what data set are you working with in your capstone? Are you working with a time series data? Are you working with a cross-sectional data? Are you working with a panel data? More often than not, you would end up working in some kind of a panel data. Sometimes time series, very rarely you'll work on cross-section. I already asked this question earlier, but let me repeat that question because it's important. Which of these models can I estimate using regression techniques? These are model specifications. We have not yet done model estimation, right? Why can't I estimate the time series using regression? Independence of what is not there, right? But we are not doing this kind of an equation. I'm looking at this equation. In which of these cases can I not use regression techniques? That could happen even in regression, right? Because I'm taking, let's say in the regression, I take data from various products. It might be that for one product, like let's say hair oil, their numbers are out of the way because they're all 2 rupees sachet, 3 rupees sachet, whatever it is, right? So numbers will be all off the mark. But that is what you're trying to estimate. You're trying to estimate across various products. We'll hold on to that question. I'll come back to that in a minute. I want to ask that question a different way, right? But that's not why time series has a difficulty with regression. The way to understand this is to really go back, as our friend rightly says, to go back to the basic arguments behind regression techniques, right? So let's say I write it like this. Sales of hair oil is alpha plus beta times advertisement of hair oil plus an error associated with hair oil. And sales of shampoo is alpha plus beta advertisement shampoo plus an error associated with shampoo. What are some of the assumptions, key assumptions we make in a linear regression model when we estimate it? Errors are normally distributed, fair enough. What else? Errors are independent. We assume that the error that is there in the hair oil is independent of error that is there in the shampoo. Now that's a reasonable assumption to make. It might not be correct, but it's a reasonable assumption to make because these are two fundamentally different products. But now come back here. Because the errors are no longer independent, all the assumptions of linear regression models are violated. And therefore, R squared is not wrong. R squared is meaningless. How can I interpret something out of a model which is fundamentally flawed? Which is why I didn't want to take the finance data at this point, but I want to explain it with a very, very simple data set. Only in the case of a cross section is the assumption that the errors are independent reasonably justified. Therefore, I can use regression in its raw form when I work with cross-section. Moment I have a time series component, the independence of errors is all gone out of the window. So I no longer can use regression as it is because the assumptions are violated. The other way of thinking about it is if it is violated in time series, what's going to happen in panel? The problem gets actually accentuated. Now think about it. This is the issue with time series. What we have in an equation like this, so let's write this. Sales at time t is alpha plus beta advertisement at time t plus error at time t. And I have, let's say, price at time t is alpha plus beta times price at t minus 1 plus epsilon t. In which case is the violation of the assumption stronger? First case or the second case? Both are working with time series data. Both are linear regression models. In which case is the impact of violation really, really high?
Two types of errors you commit, no matter what you do. Rejecting the null hypothesis when it is true, accepting the null hypothesis when it is false. The null hypothesis is the reference point. So rejecting the hypothesis, null hypothesis when it is true is called the type 1 error. Just like type 1 jaundice, type 1 this is a type 1 error. So here this is type 1 error is rejecting the null hypothesis when it is true. The probability of rejecting the null hypothesis when it is true is called the alpha risk or the significance level of the test. The probability of rejecting the null hypothesis when it is true is alpha, and all of you know probability is a number between 0 and 1. So this is called risk, alpha risk, and you set some risk. Then 1 minus alpha is accepting the null hypothesis when it is true. The probability is 1 minus alpha. You agree? Simple rule. And therefore 1 minus alpha is called the confidence level of the test. It's connected with the confidence interval. 1 minus alpha is called the confidence level of the test. How confident are you? Now, similarly, beta probability. The type 2 error is probability of accepting the null hypothesis when it is false. You should not have accepted. Probability is type 2 error, beta. 1 minus beta is not called the confidence level. It's called the power of the test. How powerful the test is. 1 minus beta is rejecting the null hypothesis when it is false. I must maximize the power. I must reject the null hypothesis when it is false out of 100 occasions as much as possible. That means I'm maximizing the power of the test. 1 minus beta is called the power of the test. 1 minus alpha is called the confidence level of the test. Alpha is called the significance level of the test. And beta is the type 2 error probability. Now, let me also say power, why it is important. Supposing I have a test, let's say this is the distribution of the null hypothesis. I formulate some null hypothesis. This is a probability distribution. And let us say I have another thing, the alternative hypothesis starts when you reject the null hypothesis. This means there is so much of overlapping. In other words, I am not able to sharply differentiate the null from the alternative hypothesis because the power is weak. When the power is weak, I am unfortunately forced to accept the null hypothesis when in fact the alternative is more likely to be true. Supposing I have a very good power, 1 minus beta, then perhaps it may be something like this. This is my H0 distribution, and I may have something like this. This is my H1 distribution, and the overlapping is bare minimum. In other words, it may not be possible for me to make it 100% distinct segments, probability of H0 and probability of H1, but I have achieved a tremendous power, particularly in insurance companies and all. This power of the test is very important. The premium, selling and all that. So, when the power is very good, 1 minus beta is maximized. It's called uniformly powerful test, and I'm able to differentiate in analytics and statistics and marketing and segmentation, profiling, differentiation, classification. You differentiate the null from the alternative. Hence, power is coming there, 1 minus beta. Now, I cannot simultaneously reduce the type 1 error and type 2 error at the same time, because the power is calculated for a given alpha. So when alpha increases, beta will decrease. When alpha decreases, beta will increase. In other words, it's a trade-off. So alpha may be 5%, beta may be 10%. I will have to accept. No, power of the test is rejecting, probability of rejecting the null hypothesis when it is false. That means probability of accepting the alternative when it is true. Probability of accepting the null when it is true is 1 minus alpha, which is called the confidence level. Probability of accepting the alternative when it is true is 1 minus beta, is the power of the test. Supposing the power is 90% for a given alpha of 5%, because 1 minus alpha will not be equal to 1 minus beta. That's a myth. So supposing I trap you, alpha plus beta is how much? You will say 1 sometimes. It's not 1. It's because this is conditional probability rejecting given H0. This is accepting given H1. When I add the two, reject, you will not get 1. So alpha and beta cannot be simultaneously made equal. There is a trade-off. If alpha is 5, maybe beta is 10%, 15%, we do not know. Yeah, that is true. No. You are fixing alpha. You are not finding out. You are fixing alpha. Don't say find out. I will come to the p-value. There is a confusion. You just wait. Just wait. Beta is the type 2 error. I am plotting probability of H1 when it is true. In other words, this for a different alpha with mu values. When I reject the null hypothesis, supposing my H0 is mu equal to 20, my alternative mu greater than 20, it will be true for more than one value when I reject this. And therefore, I draw a curve, which is a power curve. In other words, the alternative hypothesis is true for more than one value. The null hypothesis is tested at the equality sign. Mu greater than 20 means all values above 20 and above is alternative, and I find out the probability of the alternative hypothesis. Reject the null hypothesis when it is true amounts to saying accept the alternative. Reject the null hypothesis when it is false amounts to saying accept the alternative when it is true. Just bear with me for a while. Keep your questions short and simple, and let me complete, then you will have better clarity. So, why we are doing this test procedure, sharply differentiate. It is not guaranteed that every test you will have a very good power. Now, let me just, having said this, let me just give you some formulation exercises. Let us see your reaction, and then I will take one example and run through completely for you. Now, 5 situations are there. Kindly formulate. The procedures and all, one can always master. I will tell you the standard procedure, I will dictate, you can take notes, and we will do a terrific job. So you will have and you can do all the tests on your own. One test only in the class I will do. I'll just explain that to you. So the situations are there. State the null and the alternative hypothesis for the 4, A, B, C, D. Hello? I am deliberately choosing a gray area, taking the biggest risk with you. I may be committing a type 4 error, but I think I will conquer. Don't worry. Let's see. Yeah. Possible. Well, that's why I'm giving you these exercises. It comes by practice. Hello? Please listen. You can talk later. This formulation, by practice, you will be able to see, but the general guideline is what you want to prove will be the alternative. You will have to figure it out. There is no easy rule, but it comes by practice. It takes practice and you will master it. I'll give a classic example after this. Bear with me. Then we put some questions. I will answer them. First you listen to me. Then you put questions. I will take you through a quick journey without confusing you. So that let's hope there is clarity which is maximized. It's a lot harder to teach a subject like this, the foundation level. All the electives, advanced courses will be easier. This is the most difficult part. Very few can do that. So you will have to be with me. I will just explain. Since you have already done, I am taking the liberty of just refreshing your memory. I hope you have very good memory. Otherwise, take memory plus tonic. See, you had attended the class recently, isn't it? Recently only you have concluded. So let's see. Now, what is the formulation of the first one? And the symbols are used only to clarify. You can verbally write also, there is no problem. But symbols are used to clarify things. Verbally also, you can write. So what is the first one? A says, let's say this is A, is the average waiting time for the customers of Smart Supermarket at the checkouts greater than 15 minutes. Now, just see this. Let's say you are in the supermarket, you are the director. You feel people becoming restless. It is taking more than 15 minutes. Now, what we do here is the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis. Now, academically, a textbook will write less than or equal to less than, you may put in the top, but you can ignore it also. If you don't write also, it's not wrong, because the null hypothesis is tested only at the equality sign. It's not less than, is only academic. Equal to, no sir, please listen. That's why I'm saying, if you don't put, there's nothing wrong. You are testing mu is equal to 15 against mu greater than 15. So the direction of the hypothesis is understood by the alternative hypothesis. And more than 15 means it is the right of the mean, right tail test. Supposing it is less, left tail. And the alternative hypothesis, even for the love of God, will not have the equality sign. It is murder to the power infinity. If you put alternative, equal. So alternative hypothesis can be either greater or less or not equal. You can never have equality. The null hypothesis is tested at the equality sign, and some textbooks, all the textbooks as a matter of academic interest, they put a less than, but it's unnecessary. Mu equal to 15 against mu greater than 15 is enough, because you are testing it only at the equality sign. I am testing mu greater than 15 is the null alternative. So the null hypothesis mu less than or equal to 15, I omit that less than sign, because I am going to test only at equality sign. The null hypothesis is tested at the equality sign. Okay. So this is the first formulation for the first. In other words, it says the average waiting time of all the customers coming into the supermarket is equal to 15. Average waiting time of all the customers into the supermarket spending in the checkout is more than 15. Null and the alternative. Okay? Now the second part. So you will have to recognize learning takeaway. Alternative hypothesis will be true for more than one value. A number of values will come, and hence it is a power curve. If you point 1 minus beta, it will not be a single value. But I can give you a specific value, mu is equal to 16, find out the power. You can do that by simple Z and all that. It's very simple. It's not a problem. That I leave it to you to do. But this is the basic background. What is the second one? Let's see here. The B part is the proportion of households owning color TV in Chennai less than 0.4. So, is it less than 0.4, H0 and H1? Some of you might have done. Let's say pi is the proportion of the population is less than 0.4. Pi is equal to 0.4. Greater is optional. We can omit it. If you don't want, you don't have to do it. This is the left tail test. Proportion is a percentage. So you put a pi. Pi is the population proportion. It is estimated by the sample proportion P. Is it clear to you? Does it make sense to you? Now, the third part, I hope some of you have already formulated. You can cross-check. The third part, C, is the average expenditure per household on eating out significantly higher in Bangalore than in Calcutta. People eat outside now on holidays and all that. So how much money you spend, the average money you spend on eating outside in Bangalore greater than Calcutta, in Calcutta. Now, it is a comparison of two cities or two populations. Two populations, and therefore, what you do here, H0 and H1, I put here. I say here, mu1, let's say mu Bangalore, suppose you say, mu Bangalore, mu1, greater than mu2. 1 minute, I'll come to that. And this one, mu1 minus mu1 equal to mu2. So, average, where mu1 represents the average money in people spend on eating outside in Bangalore, mu2 represents the average money people spend in Calcutta. Now this, we write this as hypothesize mu1 minus mu2 equal to 0, mu1 minus mu2 greater than 0. Are you with me? This is the hypothesis. And you use the t-test. If population standard deviations are unknown, use a t-test and all that standardized. This is called independent two-sample test. Now, independent two-sample test, I can also have a paired test comparison. Hindustan Lever is advertising, doing a sales promotion to boost the sales of Surf. So they select some 20 retail stores in Bangalore somewhere, in HSR layout, let's say. They measure the sales now, average how many kgs of Surf you are selling. Then they introduce a campaign. If you buy so much, I will give a bucket, plastic bucket or something. They run a campaign. At the end of the 3 months campaign, they again measure in the very same 20 retail stores, not different, whether the sales are gone up. It's called the paired t-test comparison. Independent t-test, paired t-test. Is the example clear to you? Or, let's say I give a test to you when you come here on statistics, multiple choice, 50 questions. Let's say each question carries 2 marks. Using your previous knowledge of statistics, you crack it. Let's say the average mark is 55 in the class out of 100. Now the course SMDM is run. After that, the same 50 people, I give the very same test. Whether the marks have improved after the test than before. Now, another interesting and important thing about the hypothesis part, which I will clarify to you, the context, so that you understand this foundation part here. The last one, D, 2 random sample surveys conducted within 2 months gap between the two assessed public opinions and the outcome. The question that was posed, if the general election was going to be taking place tomorrow, would you cast your vote for or against the ruling party? Let us say for the ruling party. Against means 1 minus that proportion. It's a percentage. For the ruling party, how many people will vote today? And then I run a campaign. Whether for the ruling party has changed. So, the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis. This is a one tile, this is a one tile, this is a one tile. Now here, you have here pi 1 equal to pi 2, pi 1 not equal to pi 2. So what does it mean? It means that pi 1 represents the proportion of people who would vote in favor of the ruling party in the first period. Pi 2 is the proportion of people who would vote for the ruling party after the gap of 2 months. Now I am assuming pi 1 is equal to pi 2 against pi 1 not equal to pi 2. So if I reject the null hypothesis, I am saying either the ruling party is going to win hands down or the ruling party is going to lose because the pi 1, pi 2 has changed. Let's say the first period is 45%, the second period is also around that, you are assuming. But when the null hypothesis is rejected, it's not going to be same. That means one of the parties will lose. But here, I am not testing either it's more or less. I'm just testing whether it has changed. So, it is a two-tail test. Two-tail means there will be 2 tails. One tail is there. No tail will not be there. Doberman without a tail. That's not possible. So, one tail, two-tail test. This is the basic exercises I always prepare in a class, that in between you are supposed to do this exercise inside the class with me. Because of the paucity of time, I'm just explaining some of the foundations of a glorious topic like the hypothesis, which is a very basic thing. Now, the type 1 error and type 2 error, I will give you some more examples so that you appreciate a practical. Because all of you will say, what is real life? Life itself is Maya. It's not real. But you all go on saying real life problem and all that. Let me explain what is the context of this type 1 and type 2. Supposing, let's say, in the financial risk management, let's say, the bank has considered, based on some profile and initial things, classified somebody as a good customer, as a bad customer, let's say, when he is a good customer. Classifying a bad customer, a good customer, let's say first classifying a good customer as a bad customer. I could have given you a loan, but I foolishly applied a model and I felt you are not worth the loan, but I find you are a good customer. In other words, I have classified the good customer as a bad customer. Type 1 error. Now, imagine I have classified a bad customer as a good customer. Type 2 error. Which is more dangerous in a bank? When I classify a bad customer as a good customer, I lose the principal, I lose the interest, become straight away NPA. Whereas a good customer as a bad customer, I lose only the opportunity of revenue foregone. Therefore, the type 1 error and type 2 error is contextual. Let us take an example of weather forecast. There is a Rainman Ramanan. There was an article in Hindu, in Tamil Nadu, during the floods days. The children will feel very happy when Ramanan comes and tells there is a depression in the Bay of Bengal and it's likely to intensify in westerly direction and all that. The children will look at the window. They will feel very happy because immediately clouds, dark clouds and pouring. They don't have to go to school. So Rainman Ramanan. Now, let's say you have a forecast and you have 2 decisions to take. No umbrella, umbrella. Let's say umbrella, no umbrella. 2 decisions. The states of nature hypothesis will be no rain, rain. You take the umbrella, bright sunshine, no rain, type 1 error. Next day you don't take the umbrella, rains, cats and dogs. No umbrella, rains, type 2 error. Umbrella, no rain, type 1 error. Cannot escape. That is context. How do you you have to do. That's the context, my dear. See, you cannot go. See, I'm just giving you an example. Yes, that is true. That is context. It is contextual. Which one you consider as type 1 error? Would you consider good customer as a bad customer as a type 1 error, or a bad customer as good? But what we are committing is two types of errors. The null hypothesis is the reference point. What is your null hypothesis? So the context becomes important. You get the point. Several examples we can give. Accept the product, reject the product when it has met the quality standard for inspection. Before you ship it to the customers outside the laptops, they do some test. So I have rejected a lot which has met the acceptable quality, type 1 error. It's called producer's risk. Then the outsider has accepted the worst lot which you should have rejected. Type 2 error. That's called lot tolerance percent defect in quality control. Type 1 error, type 2 error. Everywhere it is there. You are not discovering. And then say this is not clear, this is not clear. No. You have to do some tapas. Just think about it. These are all the examples I am giving you. These examples are very profound. You can apply. Now let us take an illustration. One of the classic books written in marketing research by Parashuraman. And I will take that problem and solve one exercise and the step-by-step method. How do you crack a hypothesis testing problem, and where confusions may arise, and how do you avoid confusion? Where is the dust is here? How do you avoid confusion? So, one of the very good examples, marketing example, and several examples are in the book. I have also solved some of them. Let's say one of you read a step-by-step formulation, then I take you through in the marketplace or not. Hypothesis testing is decision-oriented. To be or not to be is the Hamlet's question here. To introduce or not to introduce. Decision. When I make a decision, I commit two types of errors. How do I optimize and strike a balance and then solve and then recommend? That's the point. In fact, most of the procedures we don't talk about the type 2 error, but it can be twisted. But in a simple way, how do we look at this problem? So this problem is one, whether I should introduce the new product in the product line into the new market or not. So the facts of the case. I am given data on the sample mean, the standard deviation of the sample, but the standard deviation of the population is unknown. I can use a t-test, but t-test is generally for small sample, also for large sample, because t is equal to coffee is equal to Bonvita is equal to central limit theorem. Agree? I didn't understand. Central limit theorem you would have done? Huh? What is central limit theorem? What is central limit theorem? It is not mean of the sample. Huh? There are two things. The sampling distribution from a normal population, even if the sample size is small, the distribution of X bar will be normal when these samples are drawn from a normal or a bell curve. When the original population is not the bell curve, regardless of the shape of the original population, which may be a camel or a donkey or a horse, if I continuously take a random sample of size n, every time afresh I compute X bar, then the distribution of X bar will approach asymptotically a bell curve, provided the sample size is large. How large is large? A thumb rule says 30, but not necessary. But that is central limit theorem. A breakthrough by Lindeberg and Levy, the Russian mathematicians. The central limit theorem. Okay. So, let's now look at this hypothesis formulation. If you look at the last paragraph, what you are getting is the mean income of the market greater than $29,000. This is Karan's choice. If it happens, the product will be introduced, the Karan. You call it Karan, K-A-R-E-N, or Karan in India, Karna, Karan, whatever you call it. Karan. Okay, Karan. So this, if it happens, product will be introduced. So the null hypothesis will be mu equal to $29,000 for academic and meaning. If I put a less than, when this happens, I am not going to introduce the new parameter. So which is going to happen? That's a question. Hypothesis formulation. Now, mu is the population parameter. It is understood by x bar. So x bar infers mu. X bar infers mu. Am I right? To avoid the confusion, let me first omit this less, but you can put that. X bar infers mu. X bar is based on the sample. And therefore, what I do is I am always interested in the difference, how different x bar is from mu, which is called the sampling error that I have committed. How different is x bar minus mu? Does the difference x bar minus mu warrant the rejection of the null hypothesis, or I cannot reject? So this is a sampling, and then I divide this by the standard deviation of x bar. The standard deviation of x bar is unfortunately called by the term standard error. Am I right? And therefore I put here sigma by root n. And this is my Z stat. Now, why is it called standard error? Can anyone say? Why is it called standard error? And standard error is closely related to the sampling error, closely related to the determination of the sample size, closely related to the margin of error, closely related to the confidence interval of the estimate. All are there. So why is it called standard error? Why in statistics this is called? It's because when supposing I have this bell curve here, let's say this is the one with my original f of x. This is the higher standard deviation. Let's assume this is a bell curve. Sigma is the standard deviation. Now I have built f of x bar, which is the sampling distribution of x bar. Now, if I ask a question to you, mean is same, but which one will have smaller error? Let's call this as E1. Let's call the error of the second one as E2. Whether E2 will be smaller or E1 will be smaller. What is the error? X bar minus mu. Now the first case, what is E1? Is equal to x minus mu. I am not taking any sample. In the second case, I am taking E2, x bar minus mu. I am taking a sample. Now, you are saying the error is large because the standard deviation of the original curve has a larger standard deviation. Now, when I do this x bar, the standard deviation of x bar, because it is smaller, this error will be smaller. And therefore, it is given the name standard error because it reduces the sampling error. And hence the name standard error. It's not for fun it is given. I just want to give you some wisdom. Do you think why this name is standard error? It's closely related to the sampling error. It reduces the sampling error, therefore the accuracy is more. Is it clear? Okay. So now, the first step is I calculate the test statistic for this particular thing, and I know very well that it follows a normal distribution with 0 mean and 1 as a standard deviation. So compute the Z stat. So what is x bar? Please do that. 30,000. What is mu? 29,000. What is sigma? 8,000. What is root n? 400. 8,000 by root of 400 is 2,400. 30,000. 1,000 by 400. 2.5. Is it correct? I am not doing. I hope you can figure it out. 30,000 minus 29,000 divided by 8,000 by root of 400, 2.5. So the computed Z is 2.5. Now, I have to tell you the simplest way, the steps of hypothesis I will tell you now. Don't get confused. Textbooks give you critical value approach, p-value approach and all. Once and for all, you put an end to the confusion. Just believe in my experience. Let us do only one at a time. That is the p-value. Now, this is a right tail test. Now what we are finding out here is, I plot the curve, the Z curve here, and this is my 0, and 2.5 is somewhere here. Am I right? Right tail. Mu greater than 29,000, so 2.5 comes here. Now, probability of Z greater than 2.5. In other words, for this Z 2.5, do I have support or lack of support for the null hypothesis? So, when the probability, if I calculate, in other words, if I now choose to reject the null hypothesis, what is the risk I am taking? The actual risk I am taking. You get the point? And that is, let's say when I calculate, that means when it is less than 2.5, I'm going to accept, right? So, for this thing, what is the risk I'm taking? Let's say this part is, I'm going to accept it, is a rejecting. So, probability of this is that greater than 2.5 in Excel. If you do norm.s.dist, can you do that? So, let us see here the function, insert function, insert norm.s.dist and 2.5, I put here cumulative, always in a normal, I should put cumulative 1. So, and I should, this is the right tail, therefore let me put a minus, because 1 minus I should do otherwise. So, I just, your permission, I do that. So, if you calculate, it is 0.006, 0.0062. The p-value, the probability is 0.0062. That is it. In other words, the probability p-value, this is the p-value. This is the p-value. Now, what is the p-value? Let me interpret. The p-value gives you the actual level of significance or the risk by which the null hypothesis is liable to be rejected. In other words, if you choose to reject the null hypothesis now at this level, you are taking 0.0062 as your alpha or the actual risk. That is, you will be 99.38% confident. 0.0062 means it is 0.6%. So 99.62%, 99.38, whatever. That I'm right. Now, once you calculate the p-value, ask the next question, what is the alpha you want to take, my dear friend? 5%. Now you say your actual risk is only 0.6% of going wrong. You are allowed 5%. Therefore, the rule is, if the p-value is less than or equal to alpha, the null hypothesis is rejected. If the p-value is less than alpha, the null hypothesis is rejected. Now, p-value is 0.06, less than 5.05. So, actual risk versus the desired risk. Desired risk is the level of significance of the test. The null hypothesis, in this case, my actual risk is this, my desired risk is 5%, the null hypothesis is rejected, and Karen accepts the alternative with a 95% confidence level, introduce the new product into the market. When standard deviation is unknown, S by root n, it's a t-test. It has got degrees of freedom. Now you should go back to the t-test. What is a t-test? The famous scientist, William Gossett, the world was struggling. He was in a science laboratory. His name is William Gossett. And they were facing a problem, lot of research in the labs, that sometimes we have to deal with small samples. And we are very sure, almost sure, that this samples are drawn from some normal population. That much we are sure. But we don't know the standard deviation of the population. Sample size is small. Samples are drawn from a normal population with standard deviation unknown. The world was plunged into darkness. They were not able to have a test. If I know sigma, even if it is a small sample, I can use the Z test. Then what happened? This gentleman said, I have an answer. Then the company said, no, you cannot publish, non-disclosure, you cannot do all this. So he nicknamed himself as student, and hence it is called student's t-test. He nicknamed himself as student, and discovered what is called student's t-test. What is the t-test? Same formula t, x bar minus mu divided by s by root n, and it follows t with n minus 1 degrees of freedom. Now, one more parameter for me to know for the value, p value, when I want to find out for the t stat, I need to specify the alpha, the degrees of freedom. One more. Now, you apply, instead of sigma, you put it as S. For small sample, it is compulsory to use the t-test. For large sample, t is equal to coffee is equal to Bonvita is equal to central limit theorem. Hence, even if I have put yes, I could have escaped saying that I can still use the Z test. You cannot touch me. Central limit theorem. More than 30, 400 is the observation. Now, let us do the t-test. Computed t is still 2.5. It doesn't change. Now, go back to Excel. Find out the p-value for a two-tail t-test. What do you get? So, you put here, my dear, and you can verify the t-stat is approximately 2 and you get the answer. Let me just put insert this and statistical and let's say t. So, t dot dist two-tail, 2.5. And sorry, 12 I put by mistake, 2.5. Degrees of freedom is 1. Is how much? 399. We want a one tail, am I right? So, let me, I'll have to divide it. 1 minute. I can do the one tail t distribution. Let's say t, two tail as well as one tail. T tail distribution, right tail. Okay. Now 2.5 and 399. What do you get, sir? 0.0064. Shameless calculation we have done just for the sake of it. 0.0062, 0.0064, sir, almost same. Central limit theorem applies. Hence, T is also central limit theorem and sample size is large. Everything, all roads lead to Rome. What's the problem? You could have used the t-test. In other words, you can still use the t-test. The results won't change. But you have to use the t-test when the sample size is small. Less than 30. You cannot use the z-test. And it requires a crucial assumption, my dear friend. Original population is normally distributed. Suppose original is not normal, abnormal, subnormal, standard deviation unknown. Don't do any test. Keep quiet. Take tomato soup. That's all. You cannot do any test. Assumption is it requires normal distribution. Original population is normally distributed. Samples are drawn from such a normal distribution whose standard deviation is unknown. On top of it, sample size is small, less than 30. Use the t-test. Original population is unknown. It's not normal. I don't know anything. Standard deviation is unknown. Nothing is known. Keep quiet. Play some cards or chess. You can't do. So our assumption is original population is normally distributed. I take a small sample, less than 30. Standard deviation of the original population is unknown. Suppose the standard deviation of the original population is known, I don't worry. Because original population is normal, even for a small sample, I can use the z-test. So this is the philosophy. Now, let me twist this for you. Confidence interval. Supposing. Confidence interval in statistics is a two-tail type of an application. We are not doing the z-test, we are establishing. Yes, sir. No, computed t is 2.5. We are not taking x is equal to, madam. Sir, hypothesis, sir, that will not change. X bar is the 30,000, that will not change. Mu hypothesis 29,000 greater than, that will not change. So t is equal to x bar is 30,000, mu is 29,000, s is 8,000, n is 400. Sample standard deviation, sir, it is given. The question gives you only sample standard deviation. It's only giving you s. In the first place, I have substituted sigma as an s is approximately sigma, and I have done the z-test. In other words, a sample is fairly large, 400. I am assuming the sample standard deviation adequately estimates sigma, and hence I have put that. Supposing you feel that, you can still put s here. If you are particular about nomenclature, I thought I don't want to confuse you. You put S here. No harm. But I have applied central limit theorem. Now what will you do? Central limit theorem. So I satisfy you putting S here. I have used central limit theorem. All roads lead to Rome. Here also I am using S. So you don't worry about it now. You are happy? T-test. Supposing in this question, instead of 400 N, 25 I give you N. Only T-test you should use. Under the assumption, distribution is normal. Otherwise you cannot do. Supposing I ask you, establish a 95% confidence level for the population income. You tell me how will you do it. Come on, the board. Establish 95% confidence interval for the population mean mu. More than 29,000 he says that, but 95% confidence limit if you are to establish, how will you establish? Yeah, true. So find out that confidence. So the confidence interval, you are right. Let's say this is 0, this is minus 1.96, I think it's plus 1.96. This is 2.5%, this is 2.5%, this is 95%. So, mota moti you take it as 2. Empirical rule, bell curve, if the population or the data represents a bell, then approximately 2 standard deviation departure. 95% of the data points will be within 2 standard deviation departure. Empirical rule. So if you don't like 1.96, take 2. But 1.96 is the accurate value. Suppose you take 2, confidence interval, 95% confidence interval for mu is given by x bar plus or minus 2 times standard deviation by root n. Now substitute and enjoy the solution. This part is called the theoretical margin of error, plus or minus. You get the point? The same thing, supposing in this case x bar is 30,000, so sigma is 8,000 by root n. 8,000 by root 400 is how much? 8,000 by 20, 400. 2 times 400, therefore this confidence interval will be 30,000 plus or minus 800 or 2 times 400, am I correct? Plus or minus 8,000 by 20, 400 is. Therefore, on the lower side, it will be 29,200 less than mu less than 30,800. The probability, ladies and gentlemen, is 95%. In other words, I am 95% probability that I don't know the estimate maybe 30,000, but I say on the lower side 29,200, upper side 30,800, it will happen 95% of the time. In other words, if I keep on taking a random sample of size n, I can keep on constructing confidence interval. 95% of such of those confidence interval will be contained in this interval. Because I am doing it only once, I cannot afford to do it again and again, it's costly. So I am assuming an estimate and an estimator. So the lower side, 29,200, and in this range, my dear friend, the population income will fall 95% of the time. And this is called the margin of error. Then I said we can compute the sample size. The same example I am taking. Supposing n is unknown and I give a condition. I don't know what you will do in the survey. You should guarantee me an estimate which will not differ from the actual by more than $200. In other words, if I compute x bar, it should not differ from mu by more than $200. What is the sample size? Supposing I ask you a question. That means I am assuming n is unknown. I am assuming the same bell curve. But what I am saying is, if I do this exercise and ask you the question, I want you to tell me the sample size which will give me the estimate will not differ from the actual by more than 200. That means the margin of error in a practical survey I want is $200 only. Are you with me? Now the practical margin of error equated to the theoretical margin of error, solve for n. In other words, if I want 95% confidence level, in other words, what I am saying, x bar minus mu should not differ more than $200. That's what I'm saying. This is the practical margin of error.
We will look at the specific examples that are listed out here. Okay. This is how we are going to proceed for the day, guys. First, the conceptual framework of factor analysis or principal component analysis will be covered in sequence. Okay. And then we will take some interpretations, we'll take some practice problems and work it out in R and see how the output is working for us. Okay. So what is factor analysis? We've already discussed. Factor analysis seeks to identify one or more underlying dimensions given a set of variables. Is it clear? Is the statement clear? Identify the underlying dimensions given a set of variables. I am trying to club the variables that are highly correlated and create a dimension out of it. Correct or not? Right? So, the basic approach relies on the following argument. Variables that are highly correlated will converge to a common concept. The common concept is what? The dimension itself. Those variables that are highly correlated will converge into a single dimension. That is what is explained here. Moving on, okay, this is the example between clustering and dimensionality reduction technique. Okay, so this is one sample data set. First, study the sample data set. What does it say? Salesperson 1 to 14. There are 14 salespersons data, right? What is the data that is available? The first one is height of the person. Next is weight, next is education, next is age, then comes the number of children he has. I don't know why this data set is used, but still the number of children is calculated, and then the size of household, and then the IQ level of the person. Okay, so these many metrics are there. So 14 salespersons data and the corresponding variables are provided. How many variables are there? 7 variables are there for the 14 salespeople. Correct, guys? Now, by looking at this data as is, tell me which salesperson, or tell me the top 2 or 3 salespeople that you will hire for your organization. Let us assume you are a HR individual. You need to identify the best salesperson out of this list, or the top 3 people that you want to hire. Your hiring requirement is 3. Out of these 14, who are the people you will hire and the reason for the same? Give me the reason for the same. One, IQ. One will be IQ. What will be the next? Age. Okay. What else you want to take? IQ, age, then what else? Education. Okay. What else you want to take into consideration? Okay. Why are you not taking height and weight into consideration? I see L&T and such organizations, they all want Greek gods to be their salespeople. All their salespeople should look like Greek mythology gods, all with the perfect jawline, perfect height, perfect weight. Right? A sloppy person like me can't go and sell anything. I will say, please buy this product. You will reduce weight a lot. Guy, but you yourself are so fat. How will you come and promote such a product? Right or wrong? Correct? You have to be smart. You have to be fit. You need to present yourselves well. So why not take height and weight into consideration? So now what I am saying is, the HR person is coming in. Let's say the HR person is a little clever. He says, club height and weight together for me. Call it as personality. Call it as personality. Good idea. Personality. Next, he comes and says, club education and IQ. Call it as his knowledge or experience or analytical skill sets, whatever you want. Whatever type of person he is. Correct? Next, take age, number of children, size of household, call it maturity of the person. Call it maturity of the person. Now, what have I done successfully? I have tried to successfully collapse them into smaller set of dimensions, and in the process, I have been able to give them meaningful names also. Am I right? Those dimensions that I have reduced, I have been able to give them meaningful names also. So, in dimensionality reduction technique, it is also very important to remember that whatever name that you are providing to the newly found dimension, it should reflect correctly whatever variables are included in that dimension. When I say personality, height and weight is reflected by this particular term that I place for the dimension 1. When I say knowledge, education and IQ automatically are being reflected there. When I say maturity of the person, age, number of children, size of household automatically reflects the same. Correct or not? Personality, age. Okay, so if you want to do a different kind of a different kind of a dimension, maybe you can try to club age and height and weight. What will you call it? Height, weight and age. How will you club it? In this case, I am asking. In this case, height, weight and age. What is the meaningful name for this dimension you will give? See, a person with height and age, with at different ages you can have different personalities, right? At different heights and weights, because I am exuberating more confidence because my height and weight ratio is perfect. For the height that I am, I have the correct weight. No, I am not having, I am assuming. I am assuming I have the correct weight for the height and I am exuberating a lot of confidence. I am an outlier, guys. For whatever weight and height I have, my confidence level should be very low, not at such a high confidence level where I can handle 60 people at the same time. Okay? If my data is included in this observation, probably it will be an outlier. You will remove me immediately from the data set. Get this guy out of the data set. Not even fit for interview. Okay? So, what I am trying to say here is, whatever dimension that you are reducing these factors into or variables into should be a meaningful set. You should be able to derive a proper meaning out of it. Now, if I try to combine, let's say, education and weight, a person who is heavier probably does not read well. I can't assume that, right? A person who is slim or heavy, it does not matter how he studies or how he performs. However, his IQ and education are related. I can sense that they will have a correlation. Correct? Now, this height and weight, you said height, weight and age, right? So, at the age of 5, I had some kind of a height, some kind of a weight. At the age of 60 also I am having some height and some weight, right? Can I, looking at just visually the data, can I say there could be a correlation between the three variables? No, right? A person who is fat throughout his life. So there is no correlation. As his age increases, if his weight increases, then there is a correlation, correct? After an age of 20 or 21, you are 18 or 19, your height never increases. So it goes flat, you are flatlining. It doesn't mean at the age of 2, my height was 1 foot, I was a 1 footer, and at the age of 60, my height becomes 120 feet. Not correlated, right? So in this case, a dimensionality reduction between this might not happen at all. You might wish for it. Just now, as he said, he might be wishing for it. But after I run the dimensionality reduction technique, it might give me a new picture. Is it clear? So that is why I say correlation is an important thing here. So height and weight, they can be correlated or not. If I keep on increasing the height, weight will also change in some way. Correct or not? Lesser the height, lesser the weight. More the height, more the weight. It could be a correlation factor. No data is perfect. No data is perfect. Are you getting it? No data is perfect. Through a longer time of education or through a longer period of experience, I am assuming probably his IQ will increase. Right? I am a fresher in this job. My IQ level for this particular requirement might be low. After working here for 5 years, my IQ level for this requirement might increase. Correct or not? Clear, guys? So I can derive some kind of a correlation between education and IQ here. When I look at the number of children and the size of household, I can derive some kind of a correlation. When children increase, household size also automatically increases. Right? When I have one child, I will be a small family. When I have 2 children, what will I do? I will call my mother immediately or my mother-in-law immediately. Come take care. There are 2 children. I cannot handle both of them together. So automatically, number of children increases. My household size increases. I am calling my auntie, uncle, everyone come live with me only now. I will take care of all of you. I will convert it into old age home. You guys take care of my children. I need to go and work. Right or wrong? So, some kind of a correlation can be studied or understood here. So, just by looking at this data plain and simple, I am doing a guesswork. If I do a dimensionality reduction, this is how I can collapse them. Because I am able to, at a high level, I am trying to deduce which are the variables that could be correlated. Maybe the data might say something else. Right? Data could tell me something else. But from my basic understanding, these are the 3 dimensions that would be optimal for me. Correct, guys? This is how I would want to reduce it. So I will do a dimensionality reduction technique. If the data is supporting whatever I want, I will go ahead and use those 3 new dimensions. If it is not supporting, then it means, what does it mean? Either the data set is not properly collected, or it is not supporting my question, or in case of survey questionnaires, I have not properly framed the questions for each and every survey or whatever groups that I want to create, or probably the people who answered that survey did not understand the question correctly. So many problems are there, correct? So I might have an expectation, but the perception might differ, right or wrong. So there are different cases in which things happen. So I am giving you a good example of how to go about solving see, first you do a correlation, right? You do a correlation, you know which are the variables which are highly correlated, correct? You take out all those variables, then you need to understand your data set properly. Which I'm seeing that 10 variables are highly correlated amongst each other, correct? Out of a correlation plot, I'm able to take 10 out of, let's say, 20 variables. They are all highly correlated among each other. I take all those 10 out, I look at what are those variables, I try to deduce one new dimension name for it, which will explain all these 10 variables clearly. So that is a business intuition that I need to understand or create. Are you getting it? So if you do not have the underlying understanding of your problem or your data set, then dimensionality reduction will give you a lot of headache. It is not the other way around. Just by clubbing them together, you cannot derive insights out of it. First, you need to understand the data set itself. This variable 1 is actually height. This variable 2 is actually weight. So I know what height does, what weight does. When the data tells me that they are correlated, I make sense out of it. I call it personality. Right? So when it is not making sense, then it becomes a big problem. So you need to understand your data set first. First, you need to study your data set so that once the clubbing is done, once the dimensionality reduction is done, then you will be able to assign proper names to it. Clear, guys? In order to assign proper names, you need to understand your data set better or your variables better. Clear, guys? Probably there might be pharmaceutical cases where drug tests are done, this is done, that is done. You will not understand what each and every variable means. They will say, they will call the variable names as x1, x2, x12, x41, x441, so on and so forth. They are nothing but trials of different, trials at different measurements of each and every drug that you have. If you don't have a data dictionary that explains what x1 is, what x12 is, what x41 is, you will never be able to successfully give the dimensions names. Clear? So, just by having 100 variables, if you are not able to understand what those variables are, then dimensionality reduction becomes a tough task for you. Clear, guys? Reducing the variables is one aspect, but understanding what those variables mean in that one particular dimension is a second level problem, which I need to tackle once again. If you're not worried about the variables at all, blindly close your eyes, ensure whatever criteria is set for this particular technique, if all the criteria is met, I go ahead, bring this smaller set of dimensions, then do my regression. Is it clear? In cases where big data is handled, it is a problem when 1000 variables are there. Running a regression model or doing a data mining technique using those 1000 variables will need a supercomputer. Imagine 1000 variables and 10 million records coming in daily. If this needs to be performed, our laptops will not be able to handle the load. I will need to go for Amazon AWS server, wherein I say I need 128 GB of RAM. I need 128 GB of RAM. I need 10 terabytes of data space, wherein I keep uploading the data again and again, and I will put in my model into the data server. I will ask it to run every day. Correct? But if I want to increase the speed of my model, I will do a dimensionality reduction, reduce the 1000 into 10, or reduce the 1000 into 100. If I am able to reduce them into at least 100 dimensions, only with those 100 dimensions I need to run my regression model now. It becomes a faster technique for me. Right? So, as the size increases, you will be able to appreciate the importance of these techniques. Is it clear? When you have only 10 variables, probably your need might not be there. Only 10. It takes me an additional of half an hour to understand these 10 variables individually for the model. Good to go. It is not a mandatory technique. This data preparation technique is not mandatory. It is needed only when there is a correlation. Within those 10, if there is correlation, high correlation, what will you do? You can do a dimensionality reduction. One of the choices. Correct or not? Clear, guys? So there are multiple ways, multiple techniques. So if you are ready to accept the trade-off that happens, then you can go with this particular data preparation technique. Okay. So now, I hope this data set is clear. This data set is clear. So now we will discuss some important terminologies that are used in factor analysis or principal component analysis. Some important terminologies, so that when I start showing you the output itself, you shouldn't get too confused. Okay, because it is a very simple thing. It's a very simple thing. All that you need to do is, there are 4 or 5 different terminologies that you need to understand when I speak. When I say factor loading, you should know what factor loading is. When I say scree plot, you should know what scree plot is. Okay, how many engineers in class? How many of you know what eigenvalue, eigenvector is? You've heard the term eigenvalues, eigenvectors? Is it a alien word, or some of you, can any one of you volunteer to try to explain what eigenvalue, eigenvector is? I will not get into in depth of the structural equations, structural formulas of eigenvalues and eigenvectors. Okay, I will not get into the structural equations of the same, but I will explain to you what an eigenvalue is, what an eigenvector is at a high level. Whatever that needs to be understood in order to perform this technique in R, I will explain it to you. Okay, guys? Deeper understanding, deeper knowledge, please go back to your books, start learning formulas if you want to. Okay? End of the day, it is your choice. I said I am grouping variables together, right? I am creating dimensions. Let us consider the example of 2 variables. Let us take the example of 2 variables. Now let us say I have variable x and variable y. Okay, variable x and variable y. I am plotting the points between the same. This is a 2-dimensional plane. Okay, this is a 2-dimensional plane. Later on I will tell you why I drew this fashion, because to explain it in simpler terms, that is why I put a circle. So now this is how the plot looks. Let us assume this is how the plot looks. Now I am trying to draw a line in between all these points. I am trying to draw a line in between all these points, which will try to explain the maximum variance between these points. Which line will help me to explain the maximum variance between the points? A line like this, right? All of you agree, a line like this. Correct? My job is half done. Okay. So now assume I am drawing a line like this. If I am drawing a line like this, that is not going to explain the maximum variance that is there in the data. Now this one, if I draw, if I take the distances, looks beautiful. All the arrow marks are almost same length, right? Except for 1 or 2 points. So this is able to explain the maximum variance between these variables in a perfect manner. If at all the same data set, if I try to draw this line, what happens? This one is small, this one is large, this one is small, large, small, large, small, small, right? This is not the correct way to try to explain the maximum variance of all my points, because each and every distance varies greatly. It is either too far away or too close to the line. Correct or not, guys? So this particular line that I draw, the direction of it is what I called as a eigenvector. The direction is my eigenvector. The magnitude of the same is called an eigenvalue. The direction of it is called an eigenvector. The magnitude of the same is called an eigenvalue. If I calculate the magnitude. No, magnitude is nothing but whatever is the distance. I square all these distances and that is the magnitude for me. Is it clear? I square those distances and I calculate the value. If I calculate the magnitude of it, that I call as eigenvalue. The direction of it is the eigenvector. I'll explain it to you. I'll explain it to you showing the data set itself. By looking at the data set, you will understand it. Okay, guys? This is just a theoretical explanation of what an eigenvalues are, what an eigenvector is. I have done it for two variables. Imagine the same in an n-dimensional space for n variables. That line which explains the maximum variance of 4 or 5 variables put together is my eigenvector, and the magnitude of the variance itself is called my eigenvalue. Clear, guys? It's not wrong to be confused. It's right to be confused. Okay. So 3 or 4 of you are confused. I will show you the data set. You will understand it clearly. Okay. Still, if you don't understand, catch hold of me during the break. I will try to explain it again to you. Okay, guys. So now what is a scree plot? A scree plot is nothing but it is a plot which has my dimensions in the x-axis and it has my eigenvalue scores on my y-axis. Eigenvalue scores. Okay, the eigenvalue scores on my y-axis and my what? Dimensions on my x-axis. So look at this sample scree plot. So this is how a scree plot looks. So if you see here 1 to 7, why 1 to 7? Because the data set example that you saw, it had 7 variables. So theoretically speaking, 7 dimensions are formed. Correct? 7 dimensions are formed. Each dimension will have its own magnitude. Right? It will have its own magnitude of variance. Correct or not? So each dimension will have its own eigenvalue. That is what is plotted here. So the first dimension has a very high eigenvalue of around 3.6. The second one has an eigenvalue of around 1.8. So it starts tapering down. Are you getting it, guys? First dimension, height and weight. No. See, I am not defining what are the variables that should be there in this particular dimension. The system will tell me that. But intuitively looking at the data, I am defining 3 different dimensions. If at all the dimensions are formed for me, it is a good scenario for me. Are you getting it? Variance, eigenvalue, they are all the same. It is all the same. Okay. Now, what I say is each and every dimension's eigenvalues are plotted. Okay. This is what a scree plot is. We will further understand how to interpret a scree plot later on. Okay. Just explaining you some terminologies. It is not screen plot. It is scree plot only. No, N is not, it's not a spelling mistake. Okay. Don't scream and say it's a screen plot. It is a scree plot. Okay. Next, there is something called as a communality. Okay. Now, I will explain to you the difference between PCA and FA. I am saying dimensionality reduction techniques, right? So, there are 2 techniques that I am going to consider for today's class. Okay, guys. One is called PCA, one is called FA. Now, I am going to explain the same. Now, before one more consideration, I forgot to tell this consideration. When you are taking these independent variables, right, for the dimensionality reduction, you should also ensure all those independent variables, please note it down, all those independent variables are either continuous or on an interval scale. Okay. Your data should be either continuous or an interval data. What is an interval data? Your survey question is rating from 1 to 7, that is an interval data. Rating from 1 to 10, survey data. So those are all interval data. It should either be continuous or interval. Please keep that in mind. If at all there are categorical variables, there is something called the correspondence analysis, which is a different technique that needs to be applied. So if at all for your homework, additional studying, Google what correspondence analysis is, try to understand what CAT PCA, search for the function name CAT PCA in R. CAT PCA is applied when your variables are categorical in nature. Okay, those things we will not be discussing today. Just for your additional learning, you can note it down and go do a Google search and study it. Okay. So categorical variables is a different thing. Correspondence analysis needs to be performed. Here we are dealing with only continuous variables or interval variables. I hope no one has doubts on what continuous and interval are. Right? Clear? Okay. Now PCA FA. What did I say this dimensionality reduction technique is all about? It is trying to identify the linear combination between variables in a dimension. Correct or not? So I need to find out some values which are called as dimensions. So the dimensions I need to define. Now PCA FA purpose is the same. Tests are or techniques are the same. Okay? Your purpose is the same. Clear? But however, the approach is different. However, the approaches are different. So what do I mean by that? When I say approaches are different, it is nothing but your factor analysis takes something called as a communality into consideration. However, PCA does not take communality into consideration while trying to reduce the dimensions. Now, what is this communality? What is this communality? I will say, if I want to put it into mathematical formulas, I will write down the mathematical formulas, then we will deduce what those formulas are. Okay? For PCA, I am saying each factor, what is meant by factor? Dimension. See, I will call it dimension, I will confuse you many times. I will call it dimension, I will call it factor, I will call it principal component. For PCA, I will call it as principal component, so on and so forth. They are each and every variable. They are each and every set of variables. Are you getting it? Now, in our example, I had 7 columns with 14 observations each, right? Now, effectively, end of the day, after I do this dimensionality reduction technique, there will be only 3 columns with 14 observations each. That is what I call as dimensions or principal components. I am just telling you what these names mean. Okay. So, what PCA is all about? PCA is all about saying that each factor, or here I will say principal component, not for confusion. There are multiple principal components derived, correct? Until principal component 7. Why do I say 7? Because in our example there are 7 variables, correct? So each principal component is a linear combination of the variables itself. I say A11 x1 plus A12 x2 plus dot A17 x7 x1 x2 to x7. x1 is nothing but height. x7 is nothing but IQ. Is it clear? I am just saying this each and every principal component or factor is a linear combination of the variables itself. So similarly, for what is PC2? A21 x1 plus A22 x2 dot plus A27 x7. Similarly, I can do it for all the 7. Now what are these A11, A12, A13 and etc.? It is nothing but, what are these things? You can call them as slope, right? If it's a linear equation, you call these things very similar to your beta 1, beta 2, right? You can call them as slope, or you can give them another name. What is that? It is nothing but your correlation between each and every variable and the dimension itself. Are you getting it? So we'll come to that again. Now the difference between PCA and FA. So this is how PCA method works. Okay, it does not take into account communality effect. What this communality effect is, we'll see in the next equation. Now, factor analysis is something which is trying to identify and understand and say that each and every variable is a linear combination of your factors. x1 is equal to A11 f1 plus A12 f2 plus dot A17 f7. Is it clear? Similarly, what is x2? I can go till x7. What is x2? A21 f1 plus A22 f2 plus dot A27 f7. Here, principal component analysis, I am saying each and every dimension is a linear combination of the variables. But here I am saying each variable is a linear combination of the dimensions itself. Is it clear? So this is what is called as a communality effect. So we will see with the output itself. Now this is the output that you will get when you run a dimensionality reduction technique in R or whatever statistical tool that you want. Okay. So these are called what? These are called as loadings, or you can call them as the correlation coefficient value between each variable and its corresponding dimension. Is it clear? This is the correlation coefficient value between each and every variable itself. So the height has a correlation of 0.59 with the first dimension or first factor. Clear? So there will be 7 factors like this. There will be 7 dimensions created, theoretically speaking. But I am looking at only the first 3, just for example's sake, because I don't want to have 7 columns here. I have just stopped it with 3 columns. Okay. So practically what I am saying here is height and the first dimension has a correlation of 0.59, or in other words, I say the weight or loadings. I can call this weight or loadings. I call these as factor loadings here. I call these loadings as nothing but the particular variable height has a weightage of 59% in this particular dimension, or in other words, I can say this particular variable is explained at a percentage of 59%. 59% of this variable is explained in this particular dimension. This is your A11. This is your A11. Is it clear? A11 is what? Weight or loading or correlation coefficient. So there are different terminologies that you have. Is it clear, guys? So how is this calculated? How is the correlation coefficient calculated? I form the dimensions first. I have the eigenvectors for those dimensions. I have the eigenvalues of those dimensions. Correct? So using that, I can calculate the correlation between each and every variable and the dimension itself. Right? The mathematical calculation is a bit tough and it's a bit complex to understand. Dimension is what? The space. The space which includes all those variables. Variables are the dots. So this is a simple problem wherein it's a 2-dimensional problem. Imagine a 3-dimensional or 4-dimensional or 10-dimensional problem. So it is a space. It is a space. Dimension is nothing but a space which includes all those variables that are correlated to each other. All those variables which have a high correlation will automatically be clubbed together. When you plot them in an n-dimensional chart, they will all be clubbed together automatically. Is it clear? So you will have a sphere here, you will have a sphere here, you will have a sphere here. But 10 variables will be here, 10 variables will be there, 2 variables might be there, 1 or 2 variables might not be correlated with anyone else. It could be a separate dimension, so on and so forth. Correct? So here what I am saying is, if I look at 0.59, this is the correlation height has with this dimension. If I look at weight, it has 0.45, 0.80, 0.86, 0.84, 0.92 and 0.28. Just by looking at this table, I can understand that the first dimension itself is able to include most of my data in it. Are you getting it? Almost all of my data is explained in the first dimension itself. Correct or not? I am not reducing the dimensions. There are 7 dimensions, but I am looking at only the first 3 dimensions here. One is the first dimension, not height only. This is, yeah. I will tell you, I will explain everything to you. Okay. Do not get confused. Go with the flow. Go with the flow. If you still have doubts, then we will discuss them. Okay. Go with the flow. Okay. So basically, what am I doing here? I am looking at the loadings. Okay. Now I want you to do a very small example here. Now what factor loadings are? What factor loadings are? We will see here immediately. These are called as factor loadings. Okay. The next thing is variance summarized. How to look at variance summarized we will learn here. Okay. Now do a small exercise for me. Open your Excel sheets. Once you calculate these things, you will understand them. Square this first term, square 0.59, square 0.722, square 0.30, add them up and tell me what is the total. The first row of values that you have, square each value and add them and tell me what is the total. 0.961, correct? 0.961 is the value. So this I call as my communality. What is communality? It is nothing but all these 3 factors or 3 dimensions that I am taking into consideration, what percentage or what amount of the first variable it is taking into consideration, or it is able to explain. Are you getting it? So when I square these values and add them up, when I square and add these up, I call them as the communality value. If it is coming to a value of 0.961, I will interpret it by saying 96% of this particular variable is accommodated within the first three dimensions itself. Is it clear? That is the understanding behind it. This is the correlation value. I am saying this is the correlation value. I square the correlation values, they become my variance values. So I add those variance values, and once I add those variance values across the table, that is the across each and every dimension, that becomes my communality. So communality is what? It is the common variance. It is the common variance across all factors that is explained for each and every variable. It is the common variance. Are you getting it? So the total value that you got, 0.961, it is nothing but 96% of your variable height is being explained by the first 3 dimensions itself. Are you getting it? So 96% of your first variable height is being explained by the first 3 dimensions, collectively, cumulatively put together. Is it clear, guys? Do one more squaring and adding. See what is the communality of weight. Rest 3% is actually included in the other 4 dimensions. Are you getting it? So there are total of 7 dimensions, right? So if you square and add all the 7 different factor loading values for height, you will get a total of 1. We'll come to this later on. See, this A11 is nothing but 0.59. Clear? So squaring this plus squaring this plus squaring this all gives me the communality. Here communality, by squaring all these I will get the communality values for each and every factor itself. Clear guys? Yeah, F1 is a dimension, F2 is second dimension, F3 is third dimension, F7 is 7th dimension. We will come to that. Those are called factor scores. We will calculate and keep a value for each and every column, each and every dimension. So clear until here guys? I hope it's clear. What is the second one's communality value? 0.97. So it is having a higher communality value. What do I mean by that? 97% of my variable weight is explained within the first 3 dimensions now. Correct? So where is that rest 3% going, like our friend asked? Where is the where is the other 3%? It is being explained by the other 4 dimensions which I am not showing here currently. So there are total of 7 dimensions theoretically created. The first 3 dimensions itself is able to explain 97% of the data. I am good to proceed with it or not? Correct? So this is a good way of reducing my dimensions. So the other 4 dimensions are explaining only 4% of one variable, 3% of one variable, 2% of one variable. I don't want to use those. I will use only those strong dimensions which are able to explain more of my data. In a perfect world, what I would expect is, I will expect a value of 1 for height. I will expect a value of 1 for weight, communality values, right? But in a real world scenario, these are the values. So when you initially you calculated the communality of height, was it 0.961? Second one was 0.977. So 96% of height is explained within the what? First 3 dimensions itself. 97% is explained. 86%, 95, 96, 94, 94. Good to go or not? So this is an indicator of telling me that first 3 dimensions are good to go. I need not use the 4th or 5th or 6th dimension or the 7th dimension into my consideration. I need not take those dimensions because it is able to explain only what? 4% of this, 3% here, 4% here, 5% here, 5%, right? So 5% data, 4% of the data being explained, I don't want to take them into consideration. I will take only those dimensions which are able to explain a high amount of my data's variances. Clear guys? So this is what communality is. Are you clear? Communality is this. So these factor loadings are, what are these called? Correlation. This is the correlation value between the dimension itself and the variables each. These, when they are squared and added across, they are called as a communalities. They are the communality values. Is it clear? So by doing this, we will be able to understand what is the communality of each and every variable, right? That is what I am trying to understand here. For factor analysis, I told you it is taking each and every variable itself as a linear combination of the factors. So that is what I am doing here. For this variable, I am taking a linear combination of all these things and calculating the communality. Right or wrong? Correct guys? Similarly for the second variable, similarly for the third, similarly for the fourth, all the 7 variables that I see. Okay guys? So this I call as my communality. 1 minus this value, I call it as my uniqueness. There is another terminology that I am explaining to you. Uniqueness. Uniqueness is what? The uniqueness is nothing but that which is not explained in my 3 dimensions. That which is not being included in my 3 dimensions. Okay? So that is something called as a uniqueness. Yes. It is not, we are not fixing it at 3. Here in this case, 3 is more than enough. So I am taking 3. If 4 are only explaining all 96% of the data, then I will take 4. So we will see what is the criteria for that. We will come to that. This is the judgment that you make. Scree plot is what helps you in judging the same. How does Scree plot help you in doing that? We will take, there are different ways in which we need to identify this. First we will understand the terminologies, then come back to this. Okay. So communality is clear guys. Communality is clear. Next we will come into something called as factor loadings is also clear. Factor loadings are what? They are the correlation between each and every variable and the dimension. Correct? So it can take up values between -1 and +1. Correct or not? Correct or not? Correlation, what are the values that correlation can take between -1 and +1? Correct? But here we will not take the minus or plus sign into consideration. We will only take the magnitude of the correlation itself. If it says -0.59 or 0.59, I don't worry about it. I am only worrying how much of weight is added to the first dimension for this variable, how much of weight is added to the first dimension by the second variable, so on and so forth. I don't want to see whether it's a positive correlation or a negative correlation. The magnitude is what is important for me. 59% is included in this dimension, I am happy. 40% is added in the second dimension, I am happy. 30% is added in the third dimension, I am happy. Squaring them up and calculating the total communality, 96% of the data is explained by these three dimensions, I am happy. Clear? Clear guys? So far clear? Now, what is variance summarized? Variance summarized is nothing but, now the same factor loadings that you have, now I want you to open up your Excel and do another calculation for me. Square 0.59, square 0.45, square 0.80, square all these terms individually, add them up and tell me the total value. Square them up and add them, tell me the total value. Don't feel lazy, everyone do this activity or you will not remember the points that I am telling you. Okay? Please don't feel lazy. All of you do this so that you remember these concepts, or else you will never remember these concepts. Familiarity is most important. So I kindly request you, please open Excel. Those of you who have not opened Excel till now, only when we put in some effort, we will try to remember it. If you don't put any effort, we will never want to remember those things. 3.611. This value is nothing but my eigenvalue for the first dimension. What is the eigenvalue there for the first dimension? 3.6. Now similarly, if you calculate for the second column, it will be equal to 1.8. Will it not be equal to 1.8? Do it and check. Do it and see. Cross check if it's working out correctly. Square these terms. Add them. Tell me what is the total value? 1.85. So that is what is plotted here. Correct or not? And so third one, when you calculate, it will be close to 1.1 or 1.2. Right? This one is very close to 0.2 or 0.3 or whatever be it. Right? So eigenvalues are calculated for all the 7 dimensions. So if you look at the whole table, the other 4 dimensions as well, you calculate, square them, calculate, you will have the eigenvalues for them. So automatically what is happening here? My first dimension is that dimension which has the highest eigenvalue, right? So my dimensionality reduction is happening in what manner? The first dimension is nothing but that dimension which has the highest eigenvalue, meaning that dimension which is able to explain maximum variance of all the variables put together. Clear guys? That dimension which is able to explain the maximum variance of all the variables put together, that is considered as my first principal component. Right or not? Not eigenvalue. Eigenvalue is the magnitude of that particular component, principal component. Is it clear? So nothing but for the first principal component, squaring these coefficient values is what we are doing. We are squaring these coefficient values, and once we do that, we get the magnitude of this particular linear equation. That is what principal component is all about. PCA is all about. See, both factor analysis and principal component analysis give you the same output. Are you getting it? They both give you the same output. The only difference between FA and PCA is FA takes into consideration what is the communality effect for each and every variable. PCA blindly does first component. Okay, this is the highest eigenvalue, whatever is there, put it as the first component. Blindly take what is the next principal component which has the next highest eigenvalue, and it lists the same. When you look at the output of both, the first component that is derived for factor analysis or PCA will be the same. It will be the same. But in the output, you will have the uniqueness listed for you for factor analysis. Meaning, you will be able to understand how much of each and every variable is explained within these 3. In principal component analysis, I will not look into that. Are you getting it? So, if you want to understand, when you are reducing 10 variables into 3 variables or 3 dimensions or 4 dimensions, if you want to understand how much of each and every variable is being explained within these 3 or 4 dimensions, you go for factor analysis. Clear? If you do not care about it, go for principal component analysis. In the same example that I gave you, if you understand your data set, go for factor analysis. If you don't understand your data set, go for PCA, right? PCA does not give you the insight. FA gives you the insight as to each variable. Height, I am able to see that 96% of height variables are actually included within the first 3 components, right? So factor analysis will help me show these values, understand these values. Principal component analysis will not help you in this. It will only say these many variables that you gave me, these are all the principal components. Now choose whichever components that you want to choose and go ahead with your model. If we start doing that, I think the next 1 hour will go in calculations only. We will do it in R directly. Yeah, I can give you an Excel wherein each and every value is calculated. I can give you the formulas of it and etc. etc. But in class, do you want me to do the formulas itself? Right? Whatever I am explaining to you, please note it down in the notebook. I am giving you all the calculations, right? Square each and every values. These you have, right? What is it that you want? That has a very complex structural equation and formula which is included in it. What we actually do is, we say these are the variables that I have, run principal component analysis, R will chuck the output for me automatically saying these are your loading values. As simple as that. R will give you the output. See, this is nothing but this is R output. I am showing you the output in R. Is it clear, guys? We are not going to calculate this mathematically. We are not going to calculate communalities mathematically. Getting it? We are not going to add, subtract, multiply, divide anything. We are only going to say principal component. I will call the function of principal component analysis or factor analysis, give the input variables, and everything else is done for us. In some weightage, there is a small weightage which is added to all the variables. Yes, but the weight or correlation between each and every variable and the component itself differs. Are you getting it? So that is what I am saying. When you square and add them across, all the 7 will give you a total of 1, communality of 1. Meaning, the entire variable is explained by all the 7 dimensions put together. Are you getting it? But however, the first 3 are able to explain 96% of it. The other 4 is explaining only 4% of it, 0.04 of it. PC7 is the worst component. We will not take that component at all. Are you getting it? PC7 will actually be explaining very close to around 0.5% of your variables each. Are you getting it? Because it is always in ascending order. The best component is your first component because it has your highest eigenvalue. Second component will be the next best component out of your 7 components. So it will always be shown to you in descending order only. So if there is weak correlation between all your variables, all the 7 components will need to be taken into account, which makes no sense in dimensionality reduction. Correct or not? Instead of using 7 dimensions in place of 7 variables, I will use the 7 variables itself. It is not the best fit line. It is not a line. It is not a best fit line or anything. It is the best dimension. It is the dimension which explains all these variables in this particular correlation. Are you getting it? Now we'll quickly jump the gun here, guys. We'll proceed. Yes. Imagine doing the same for each and every dimension. This is also principal component analysis. See, in PCA, guys, in PCA, FA, everything you will get factor loadings as the output. Are you getting it? The approach is only different. In what sense is factor analysis will take communality and show you what is the communality. Principal component will not tell you what is the communality. That is the only difference. That's it. Both the techniques, guys, both the techniques are used for the same purpose, dimensionality reduction only. But if you want to understand the communality effect, you go for factor analysis. If you do not want to understand communality effect, you go for PCA. Don't confuse it with regression. What I would say is, see, what is the question the same? See, I cannot draw an n-dimensional space and show it to you. That is why I am asking you to visualize it in your minds. Here, it's a 2-dimensional space. I was able to draw and show it to you. When it goes beyond 3 dimensions, I won't be able to show it to you using any software. That is the problem. So imagine a sphere where one set of variables are moving in the same direction. Another set of variables are moving in the same direction. Another set of variables moving in the same direction. Those variables, I will combine them into dimensions, find out what is the correlation between those variable and the dimension space itself. Between that space and the variable that is included in that space, I will find out the correlation. That is my factor loading. In an n-dimensional space, it is not a line. You shouldn't talk about lines when you go to n-dimensional space. When you go to 3D itself, line becomes a plane. I hope you are able to understand that, right? So, from a line, it moves into something complex, more complex. So, it is not lines always. For simplicity's sake, I am saying line. Because when I say line, it is between two variables. Between two variables, it's a line. When third variable comes in, it becomes a plane with height, length and breadth. 2 dimension, you call it a line. Are you getting it? When it comes to the third dimension, it becomes a plane. Okay. So, eigenvalues, is it clear, guys? Eigenvalues clear? Now, these are the eigenvalues that you calculated. So, for the first dimension, 3.61 was your eigenvalue. For the second dimension, it was 1.8. For the third dimension, it was 1.1, if at all you had calculated it. Right? Okay. Someone has calculated. Wonderful. So, you have the eigenvalues for the same. Now, what I will say is calculating the percentage of variance. Calculating the overall percentage of variance. How do I calculate it? It is nothing but my eigenvalue for that particular dimension divided by the number of variables that are included. Total number of variables 7. So, what is 3.61 divided by 7? 0.51577. So, converting that into percentage, it says 51%. Or what is this 51%? 51% of my entire data set is explained by this first dimension itself. Similarly, if I do the same calculation for the second dimension, 26.4% of the data, entire data, 26.4% of the entire data is explained by the second dimension. For the third dimension, 16.5% of the entire data is explained by the third dimension alone. If I take the cumulative of the same, this is 51, this is 51 plus 26, 78, 78 plus 16, 94. So, what I am practically saying here is the first 3 dimensions put together cumulatively is able to explain 94.5% of my data. So, I am saying the first 3 dimensions are able to explain 94.5% of my data, which is a very good scenario for me. Statistically, the benchmark is if the number of dimensions that you take, if they are able to explain at least 75% of your data, meaning the cumulative variance is equal to at least 75, 0.75 or 75% in this case, then I say that is a good take.
This brings us to the end of this tutorial on business analytics for beginners. Now, before you guys sign off, I'd like to inform you that we have launched a completely free platform called Great Learning Academy, where you have access to free courses such as AI, cloud, and digital marketing. So guys, thank you very much for attending the session. Hope you have a great learning ahead.